Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker Show. This is your midweek roundup of all things Maker and embedded and lovely. This will probably be the last Electromaker Show we have for a little while. As I have mentioned on last week's show and alluded to for a little while, we have a new family member joining us very, very soon. And I think it makes much more sense for me to just say I will see you probably around Christmas for a Christmas show, but if not that, in the new year. But we do still have a full show today, recorded sort of ab and zoo over the last couple of days when I have had time. We're in the middle of all kinds of preparations right now. But there's some super interesting stuff in today's show. And also, I really wanted to get a show out to announce the winner of the MCC DAQ hat. If you remember, we gave away a Digilant ADP3450 last week. That's a mixed signal oscilloscope, and at the same time announced a competition for the MCC DAQ hat. That's the voltage output and digital voltage input stackable hat for the Raspberry Pi. We'll be announcing that competition today too. And of course, we're going to have a very quick funding website things and all the usual stuff that you would expect from the show. We are looking very briefly as well at the M5 Tough today. This is the new thing from M5. I wish I could have spent a bit more time on today's show looking at it. It's something we will be coming back to in detail in the future when we give that away. But I think that's it for now. Let's just get on with the show, shall we? We're going to open the show with a few cool kind of projects slash tutorials slash neat things I saw on the internet this week. Mitxela has returned, and if that's a name that you do not recognize, I apologize for the amount of YouTube you're going to watch once you've seen one of his videos. He's one of my favorite creators in the world. But before we get to that, the Steamdeck. So, the Steamdeck, this is Valve's handheld computer, and I haven't really been following it all that closely, to be honest. I think it's a wonderful idea, but by the same token, I've spent enough time with x86 single-board computers and trying to get things running on them to know that it's probably not going to be what I am looking for. But it is compelling nonetheless, and the thing about it that I find super interesting is that it's going to split the way that people develop games in general, I think, if it really does take off. Because people are going to develop for the big desktop computer rigs like I'm working on right here, talking to you on right here, but they're also going to start designing games specifically for the handheld Steam Deck. And that's where this article on CNX Software comes in. This is from Ian W. Morrison, and this is them experiences of configuring and using a Hackendeck, which is a homemade Steam Deck. Now, this isn't something that is too strange to do, actually. Because of the chip shortage, there's no Steam Decks to be found for love nor money. And as you can see here, there's actually documentation on Steamworks for how to develop for Steam Deck without a development kit. So, in short, if you have a PC which is an AMD Ryzen 7 3750H with Radeon RX Vega 10 graphics and 16 gigabytes of RAM like this mini PC has, you can use it to develop for the Steam Deck. The team has agreed that if a game runs well on this mini PC at 1280 by 800, which is presumably the size of the Steam Deck's screen, it will definitely run well on the Screen Deck. Asterisk. Previously, this article stated the performance would be comparable. I think Valve are trying to cover their bases here, just in case it ends up to be more powerful or less powerful than the actual mini PC in question. And this mini PC is not massively different to this mini PC that, again, Ian W. Morrison reviewed. And this article is a long-form example of how they've tried to get a Hackendeck, a hacked Steam Deck, up and running for development, and did a little bit of benchmarking on games as well. It is a great read, and it is a very interesting thing to see that Valve are basically saying to people, hey, we can't give you a development kit very easily right now because, chip shortage, so just make your own. Start with a mini PC, work upwards, and then you can develop for the Steam Deck that way. If this is something that is going to mean that eventually we're going to have DIY projects which are basically Steam Decks that have been homemade using mini PCs, that's going to be super interesting and something we'll definitely be coming back to if it happens. There are some YouTubers that I pretty much feature every time they upload, because they upload infrequently, and when they do, it is always wonderful. Mitxela is one of those people. This project is a present made for a friend and completely manufactured by hand. Every single element, except from the PCB, which was printed and then sent, was just completely done by Mitxela, who's just popped up on the screen. It's a 52-minute video. There's no way I could show it to you, but in general, if it's a Mitxela video, you should go and watch it anyway. If you haven't seen a Mitxela video before, this will be the first one you watch, and probably the next 15 videos you watch will be the other videos on his channel. There's probably a lot more than 15. And yes, you learn a huge amount about the process in which he works and the way he thinks, and also there's a lot of very lovely footage of metal working, and then also the idea idea behind the code and the electronics. As he says somewhere in the video, he considers himself a jack of all trades, master of none. I would say he's a jack of all trades and close to a master of a few. It certainly seems that way, but then again, I know so little about all of this that it probably seems that way to me. Needless to say, the explanation of the code will be very interesting to those who are interested in very low-level coding on a microcontroller. It's a mixture of assembly and C. And the actual circuit boards themselves, which the ATtiny chip that he uses is mounted onto, are quite lovely-looking things. If I can find an image of them somewhere. Yeah, here we are. The PCBs themselves have a symbol of protection on them, and there's an interesting discussion in the video as to what different symbols mean depending on which way up they are with certain elements and not. But this was designed as a gift for a friend, which I may have already said, I can't remember. And the basic idea behind this is there's your microcontroller, and there are a few different things on it that can sense UV light and see whether the UV light level is high enough to worry. It gives you an LED readout as to whether the UV light is high and whether it's going to burn your skin or not. It is a UV Protection Amulet. It is an absolutely wonderful project, and yeah, if you haven't heard of Mitxela before, I'm terribly sorry for the YouTube hole you are about to fall in. Up next, a super inventive way to propose to someone using a 3D printer. Now this is on the 3D printing subreddit. This is user Ben C. Bartlett, and this is a 3D printed array of shapes, 3D printed array of shapes, 3D printed array of hexagons, which have mirrors stuck on them. And it's a beautiful thing in and of itself when you see it. However, if you are standing somewhere and it is reflecting light, it reflects the words "marry me" onto the floor. I have very little more to say about this other than what a wonderful idea, and yeah, and I hope they said yes. Up next, the Stardew Valley Preferences bot. Now this combines a few things I like. This is using a Latte Panda, which is an x86 single-board computer, and I like x86 single-board computers because they're perfect for doing a variety of maker fun things with, especially the Latte Panda, which has an Arduino Leonardo or ATmega 32U4 built right into the board. But it's also great for things like playing games that don't necessarily take up too much processing power, like Stardew Valley. This project combines the two, and you can play Stardew Valley while using OpenCV to basically not hack the game, but get a little bit of an advantage. So if you have never played Stardew Valley, you have a farm and you also have a community that you need to get to know. All the people in the community have different preferences, and there's different things, like the game advances in certain ways if you, for example, remember people's birthdays and do stuff like that. This is fantastic because basically it takes the screen and it looks at anyone on the screen and it gives you a little readout telling you what this person likes, what this person doesn't. It's a little bit of a cheat code for the game. Now, there is a short video here explaining exactly how it works. Well, I say explaining, it's showing how it works. But yeah, as you can see here, when they fire that screenshot out into OpenCV, it captures who's on there, and it uses the sprite sheet in comparison, and does comparison to the sprite sheet in order to work out who they are, and then it fires out onto the little screen on the side who they are and what their preferences are. So, character Alex, birthday summer 13, etc., etc. A really nice idea, a really nice use of every single part of the Latte Panda, because obviously it's running the game, it's running OpenCV, it is also running running the buzzer here and the screen too. Sorry, I'm really struggling to speak today, as I may have mentioned, a little on the tired side. The thing I love about this project the most, though, is that if you scroll down to the comments, it says it's a bit of an overkill solution because there's a mod called Look Up Anything. You can just mod the game to do that anyway. But the best kind of projects are projects that you do because you want to learn how something works, and if you find out there's an off-the-shelf way of doing it afterwards, then you've learned something, huh? Up next, a video from Liam Thompson. Now, Liam Thompson has this lovely but seemingly elderly cat who has issues getting up the stairs these days. So, you could, of course, just wait for the cat to get down there, meow, and then pick the cat up and take them up the stairs. Or you could build an automated elevator for a cat, and the latter is the better choice. So, the video goes through the entire build, but as you can see here, it was a success. The cat is very happy. I suggest you go and watch this video, support Liam. Seems like a lovely person, and he has a very, very lovely cat, and the cat seems to be quite happy about it too, and we all know who's really running the show here, because cats do rule everything after all. And our final little project is Enchanted chant-boxes. Now, this is a project from Zach Poff, as you can see here, zachpoff.com. I found this on Adafruit, and I will link the Adafruit blog here, because this is essentially saying what it is. However, if you follow the link through, you can head to Zach's website. And rather than me explain it, let me just show you briefly. Yes, these are Buddhist prayer boxes, Buddhist chant boxes that have been circuit bent. This is something that I find kind of interesting because I actually was given one of these some years ago because I was showing a passing interest in Zen and meditation and all this kind of stuff. And someone said, "Oh yeah, I've got this thing I picked up in India somewhere, I think. I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. Do you want it?" And I had it, and my immediate thought was, "This would be a cool thing to circuit bend." And I immediately put it down and have lost it for the last, I don't know, 10 years or something. And that's exactly what this project does. It's kind of amazing. And it's a series as well. There's a bunch of different ones here that do a bunch of different things. It's just, I love projects like this. It's as artistic as it is fun, and I love circuit bending in general, so I just wanted to include it in the show. I will link this Adafruit thing here, and then you can jump through to Zach's website if you want to learn a little bit more about it. There's a write-up from him too. And also where you can get your own one if you want to get one to circuit bend. But as you were seeing there, this is just varying the resistance based on a potentiometer and a LDR there. And circuit bending is a really fun thing to get into in general. A lot of older devices that use ICs to create music can be bent in one way or another. It's a really fun way to get into electronics as well. Because even if you burn a couple of things up, you're usually using tech that no one else is going to use again anyhow. But in this case, I just found it really quite interesting, and I thought you might too. So you may well remember that unusually last week we had two competitions sort of overlapping with each other, and they both had something to do with Digilant, because of course last week we gave away the ADP 3450, which is that fantastic mixed signal oscilloscope that Digilant make, and I announced the competition for this. This is the MCC 152 DAQ hat for the Raspberry Pi, and we're giving away just the hat part of it. This is my Raspberry Pi underneath, I'll be keeping hold of that. We announced that competition as well last week because, for obvious reasons, the show might be taking a break. We wanted to get these competitions out and done as fast as possible. And so it is now time to announce the prize winner for the MCC 152 DAQ hat. Now, just before we give it away, this is the review of the MCC 152 I did for the Electromaker website. You can find this under the blog tab. And this is a sort of a slight review, half overview of getting started with it. As with the other Digilant thing, actually, this isn't made by Digilant. MCC stands for Measurement Computing. But they also have a very easy-to-use system. There's a GUI for Raspberry Pi. There's a fantastic code base. You can run it from the command line, a bunch of different things. But yes, essentially this is something that gives you precise analog reading on a Raspberry Pi and analog output voltage, which is something, of course, the Pi cannot do by itself. Here's the page on the Digilant website of it as well. As you can see, it's $149 currently out of stock, but that won't be for particularly long, I do not think. And here is the thing itself. So the MCC 152 voltage output and DIO hat features 2 channels of analog voltage output and up to 8 digital I/O for Raspberry Pi based systems. There's a bunch of stuff here that you can read, a bunch of things. One sentence I would like to bring to your attention: up to 8 MCC hats can be stacked on top of one Raspberry Pi. 8 of these on the one Raspberry Pi is a huge amount of digital input and output, and of course that then means 16 separate output voltages. That's just bonkers. It's great. It's really nice. I had a lot of fun with this thing, but it is of course time to give it away, and that is what we're doing right now. This is the choosing of the prize winner. And the winner of the MCC 152 DAQ hat is Gordon Margaloo, who's someone who's been watching the show for quite a while, been showing up in our comments for quite a while as well. So I'm very glad that you were chosen for the competition, to win this competition. And the comment was, the MCC 152 would be interesting to try in a battery test setup. The DAQ could be used to set the battery target voltage, and using comparators output into the digital input to report the charge status. That's a really interesting idea. If you do end up doing something like that with this, Gordon, please do document it, stick it up on the Electromaker website, and we'll take a look at it in the show at some point in the future. But congratulations, we will be in touch with you as to how you can get this lovely little hat out to you. And to anyone who is generally interested, like I said, I do have an overview and a review of it. I found this thing incredibly easy to use, and if you are someone who likes to kind of write your own automated tests and coding and all that kind of and run hats using sort of code-based libraries, it's good for you. But it's also really good for people that maybe are just wanting to test things in a visual sense, because as I said, there is a GUI that works with the Raspberry Pi desktop, which is very easy to use to read all of the inputs and to set up the digital inputs and outputs, and of course choose what kind of output voltage you would like to be running out through this as well. We're short on time in this show, so we're going to squeeze in just one funding website thing this week from Kickstarter, and this is just a really nice macro pad that caught my eye. So the JC Pro Macro 2 mechanical keypad is, well, as you can see in front of you here, this is 8 customizable keys and a rotary encoder. A thing that I quite like about it as well is that there are GPI breakouts directly on it as well, so you can use it to control a variety of other things as well. It's the video that you're watching right now shows you a bunch of different ways it can be used, and if you go navigate here and actually watch the video, they explain what is going on. But essentially, it is context sensitive, so that when you are using Discord, it controls Discord. It can control the volume. When you're on Discord, it's controlling the volume. When you're in Premiere, it is controlling the video editor, the timeline scrubber, which is something that, as I've talked about in the past, I'm kind of interested in. I've tried to make my own digital editing suite thing with the rotary encoder. I actually ended up scrapping that because I realized that using the keyboard is far, far quicker, but I'll go back to it one day. Anyway, it is highly extendable, highly expandable. It is run using an AT-Mega32U4, which is the same chip you find in the Arduino Leonardo and Arduino Micro. It is a USB HID device, hence it working so easily. And that makes it easy to program using Arduino or anything else you'd like it to use with it. Yeah, it's just a really nice implementation. There's a bunch of macro pads out there. Some are completely DIY, some of them are off the shelf. This is somewhere right in the middle, and it seems like there's enough gone into it to make it really a more robust product than just a sort of completely DIY kit. It sort of sits between product and DIY kit. I thought it was worth a look. So if you would like to support this project, you can see on the side here, it's $59 for the full components kit. However, if you have a bunch of components sitting about at home already, you might be interested in just getting the circuit board, which has the SMD LEDs already soldered onto it, and that is just $19. Yeah, I think in my case that's probably what I would do, because I think I have everything else that you would need in order to get this thing up and running. But of course, that's just because I have a huge amount of stuff I've collected over time that I have very little time to use. It may be quicker for most people to just get one which is the full set of components and do it all in one go. But yes, there's a bunch more to say about this macro pad, but by the same token, it's a very simple idea just done well. I suggest you go and have a little look at it and see if it's the kind of thing that we'd want to support. Even if you don't necessarily want to get this one, the thing I love about Kickstarters like this is that they're so damn inspiring. It makes me want to kind of try and design my own thing again. It makes me even want to go back to the thing I just told you I'd scrapped, which was my video editing thing, my little rig that had a rotary encoder in and a bunch of keys for cutting and moving film around, because obviously I do a lot of editing. I edit the show every week. But yes, this is our funding website thing for this week, the JC Macro Pad on Kickstarter. I will leave a link in the description. Now, to close out this week's show, we're going to take a very quick look at this. This is the M5 Tough. Now, usually, I would be showing you me unboxing it, getting to know it, doing a bit of coding on it, maybe trying to do some basic projects on it. Unfortunately, that is not something that I've had the time to have thus far, and I wanted to really do it justice, because this is something that I think A, is going to be awesome, and B, that we're going to give away on the show, and so I want people to know what they're getting into when they enter the competition. Because if you're not familiar with M5, they make some truly lovely stuff, mostly based around the ESP32. There are a bunch of different modules that are all very easy to use and are designed in different ways, and if you've had any dealings with their M5 stuff, you probably know this already, I guess. So I've barely had the time to really even get this thing out of the box. They sent it to me and I really wanted to do a feature on it. Unfortunately, there hasn't been time for that. There will be a full feature on this around about the time we give it away when I return to the show after my time off. What do they even call that? Father time? I don't even know. But this is very reminiscent of other M5 products. It is a tough version of a M5 development kit with a touch screen. And it has a bunch of other nice features too. A speaker, it has an extension board, it has a micro SD card slot, which is very cleverly hidden within, as you're probably seeing on the screen right now, along with all of the usual extensions you can get. And it is run by an ESP32 chip, which, as we know, are cheap, blazingly fast, and very easy to use. So until I can get my hands on this thing properly and play with it, let's just have a look at the actual store page, or the documentation page, as I should say, for this. This is what we've just been looking at, and I really like this design. I really like the fact that they have this this separate thing in and of itself that you can lift out, and that this is the screen. This is where the this and this are the same thing, essentially. You can turn this upside down, and that is what is on the bottom of it. So in here is where the processor is. There's the micro SD card slot here, and the way it works is that you put the micro SD card slot into this thing and then push it down into the housing, and the rubberized O-ring around here will stop it from getting any water ingress or anything like that. And then this extension board, which is inside there, is, as it says, for extending things. You can plug a bunch of different things in: I2C, GPIO, UART, and power, and 485. Oh, serial as well, 485, RS. RS485. I cannot speak today. Sorry, I've had very little sleep in the last couple of days. So, and interestingly, it does say there's no protection from immersion in water, but if you look on the M5 Stack Facebook page, they actually tested it fully immersed in water, and it seemed to be fine. Who knows? But the point is, this is designed for rugged environments. So this documentation page will tell you everything you need to know about this little device. And I am a big fan of M5 in general. I really like their approach for making self-contained little boards. It is very nice to get a completely raw development board for an ESP32 that you can stick onto a breadboard and do all of your own stuff. And I've said many times in the past on the show that I'm a fan of doing things that way because you learn the electronics along with the coding. But it cannot be denied that there is a million and one things that I would want to throw an ESP32 at, and just getting an off-the-shelf thing like an M5 stack device would be way easier, the better way to do it in my case. And the great thing about it is they're all Arduino IDE compliant because they're ESP32s. You can use them with Platform IO. And M5 has their own low-code system. They have a visual programming language, which makes it very easy to get things going. And in fact, one of our long-time regular viewers, Matt, as in Not Enough Tech, Matt, if you go to the Not Enough Tech YouTube channel, I do remember for a while he did some fantastic things showing how that worked. I believe that was M5 Stack. If I have that wrong, Matt, apologies. But at least, I suppose I'll still be sending people to your YouTube channel, so I guess it's not the end of the world. If you are interested in the M5 Tough right now, go and have a look at this page. I will leave a link to it in the description of the video. I was not aware of this until it literally arrived on my doorstep, and M5 were kind enough to just say, hey, look, you might find this cool, give it away on the show. It was as simple as that. There was there's not much talking involved. They were just like, hey, you have a look at this, see what you think. It's really nice of them. And of course, as with everything that passes through my hand, it will get to one of you at some point in the future. So all of the specifications are here on this page, along with a bunch of technical details. You can even see the schematics of the whole thing here as well. And I am super excited to get my hands dirty with this thing, quite literally, because it is a ruggedized case. There's a million and one things I can think of to throw this at, places I would not want to put a microcontroller usually. This is a nice step, I think, to kind of... There's industrial automation on the one hand, and there's us hobby microcontroller people on the other hand. This is a really nice touch. You get a lot of rugged mobile phones that people use, which are designed to be mobile phones, but they're rugged, and now rugged microcontroller enclosures. I like it. So that has been the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Apologies if things were a little bit more scattered this week than normal. As I've mentioned, there's just quite a lot going on in my life at the minute, but it's all good things. Thank you all so much for the amount of support you've been showing this show as well. The last year and a half has been lovely. Getting the show off the ground is something I never thought would work the way that it has. It was just a sort of harebrained idea that was shared by the folks at Electromaker with me, and it's been so nice to come on board and become a bigger part of it as time has passed. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who sent such lovely messages through already. I've heard from a lot of folks who say, hey, I know you from the show, and just wanted to say congratulations on the new family member, enjoy your time off, all that kind of stuff. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. The Electromaker Show will hopefully be returning for a Christmas special. I'm hoping that by then I'll at very least be able to get together just a few nice Christmas things, and we'll have a quick show. Between now and then, if you are not already in the Discord channel, please do drop in there, because I do feel like one of the things I may be able to do is drop things that I would normally talk about the show in the Electromaker Show channel on the Discord server. I'm always on the lookout for things to feature in the show anyway, and my phone is set up to tell me these things. I follow a lot of feeds for that reason, and so instead of letting it just go to the wayside and not be used, maybe I'll post it in the Discord instead. But anyway, for now, until I see you guys next, I hope you're having a safe, fun, and creative week, and I'll see you soon.